Hello there, quick thing before I started. In between last video and this video, I've moved into college. I'm no longer in my shitty bedroom. I'm instead in my shitty college dorm room. So don't mind any of the weirdness that's going to be happening within the next episodes, videos, things that I put out on the internet for a while. Or me hitting the microphone, that's good too. Just keep in mind for that. Also, I do have more videos scripted after this one, and I will be trying to keep a consistent schedule. Roughly every 2 weeks, I want to have a video going. Don't hold me to that, I'll hold myself to that. Otherwise, I will just have failed you. Anyway, let's get going with the video. Alright, I'm going to be real with you all. Card game anime like Yu-Gi-Oh! Suck at portraying the card games they're all about. Change my mind. Now, I understand that Yu-Gi-Oh! And other shows like it can be thrilling for many different reasons, like, oh, I'm going to lose, which means my sister will stay blind forever, or if he wins, then I'll be trapped in a wall forever, or something akin to that. But if you take away the artificial stakes and just look at the card games they're playing, it's absolute horseshit to say that any of these card game players are any good at the card game. The people who win only win because they luckily drew the perfect card they needed at the last possible second before they would lose otherwise, and at no point does the show actually talk about or even reference different deck strategies or win conditions or ideal matchups. You know, some of the things that make card games interesting at all. Before I start getting deep into this video, I take some heavy inspiration from this video right here from Mother's Basement, talking about the same topic in a different light than I am. Him having watched way more card game anime than me, and having actual experience playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game. So I will not be talking about the real world of that game, but instead I will be talking about a card game that I actually know competitively. Magic: The Gathering. So I mentioned that the only reason anybody wins is because they top deck the exact right card at the exact right time every single turn, in which case they're stacking their decks so precisely that they should have machines shuffle their decks instead. But then again, that would mean that every person would be stuck with a shitty hand full of weak cards that do nothing to progress their overall deck strategy. Assuming they had one in the first place. See, if the show has taught people anything, it's that the way to win is to fill your 40 or 60 card decks with as many single, powerful monsters or creatures as possible and play them better than your opponent. Which isn't how actual card games work. Now, you could possibly do that, and you technically have the ability to top deck the right card you need for every situation. And that can absolutely work for a casual kitchen table deck. An actual competitive deck typically runs more than one copy of each card and will usually run playsets of 3 or 4 cards for most of the deck. Here, let me show you. This here is a casual deck that I play against other casual decks. You see how many single copies there are? There's barely any 2-ofs or 3-ofs, and the only playset is of land cards. Ooh, scary. This would never ever win me any kind of tournament in any format outside of casual bouts with friends or at my local game store on casual only nights. Now compare that to this deck, which I built and then edited based on a prototype on the internet. See how it's mostly playsets? This deck is consistent. I can usually predict with a reasonable degree of certainty how likely I am to draw the card I need within 2 or 3 turns because the cards are so frequent. This has some winning potential right here. Not much, but far more than a deck made of cards literally thrown together randomly. Deck construction plays one of the biggest parts of being actually good at card games, and as Mother's Basement said, that's something rarely ever touched upon in anime. And don't even bring up when Yugi changed his deck in between Duelist Kingdom and Battle City. That's not what I meant. I meant the idea of constructing a deck with a specific strategy and goal in mind. The actual deck I showed off earlier, it's built to cast cheap creatures and damage-dealing, card-drawing, cycling cards that rush your opponent's life total down to 0 before they even have a chance to establish a proper board presence. Yugi does it all off camera, and then in duels he just throws shit in front of his opponents and hopes it works. That's how a casual player plays any game, not just card games. And if this man claims to be the king of all games in general, then he should really put some goddamn effort into, oh, I don't know, planning. And then there's the mind game elements of card games, when players try to outthink their opponents and stop their strategies from going off before they even happen. For example, Modern Jund denies the opponent resources in their hand and on the field, while establishing an enormous presence on the board with huge creatures and overwhelming card advantage. Modern Mono Blue Tron completely locks the opponent out of playing the cards in their hand and on the field by playing their turn for them over and over and over and over and over and over and over. How does your deck want to stop those strategies from happening before they go off and lock you out of the game? That's the stuff you want to keep in mind when you play any card game. how do the cards in your hand and in your deck get you to your win condition while stopping them from getting to theirs? In Yu-Gi-Oh!, none of that is implied in the slightest. The only thing that anyone does in the entire show that even remotely resembles anything like that is when Yugi plays Dark Magician in his duel against Joey in Duel's Kingdom, because Yugi knows that Joey built his deck around the overpowered Time Wizard card, and Dark Magician acts as a hard counter to Time Wizard due to its effect of casting spell cards on your opponent's turn directly from your hand. That's like turning a sorcery card, which can only be played on your turn, into an instant, which can be played at any time. There's a reason those rules for spell cards and sorceries are in effect, because if you could play those cards on your opponent's turn or at any time, they would be overpowered as shit! And finally, the show treats life points like they're the absolute most important resource you could possibly have, but that is in no way how actual competitive card games work. The only time your life points matter is when you only have one left, which will soon become 0. This is true to the point that if there was a magic card that let you go to 1 life to make a 1/1 creature with flying for each life you lost, it would be played at 4 of in every deck in every format because of the huge game-winning potential. Hell, Magic Arena even has a loading slide that says your life is a resource, and that winning at 20 life is the same as winning at 1 life. Also, every competitive game of Magic is played in best of 3 rounds, not just one game to end it all. If you lose one match, you're not banished to another dimension akin to hell. That's just a little cheap. There's a lot more to card games that I can't really go into in this video that Mother's Basement did not go into in his, so I'd recommend going to watch that video right here. If you want to watch some videos of Magic the Gathering content from one of my favorite people in the world, click right here to be taken to this guy's YouTube channel, Talarian Community College. If you want to watch me dig into more useless knowledge, click either here or here. If you like this video, consider dropping a like. If you really like what you see, consider subscribing. I'm Van Campone, and I will see you guys next time. Don't mind the shuffling. I like card games.